Hi, this is Derek Tsai from LearnByBlogging.com. Today I have a review of this book called Google, How Google Works by Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg. This is the kind of the owner's manuals or corporate culture for Google. And so Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg were the early hires of Google. Eric came to provide the adult supervision as a CEO before the IPO of the company, and Jonathan came to Google from Excite to manage the product offerings. The book is the combined perspective of how Google get things done in terms of how they're hiring, the culture, and some of the history. It's a very good read if you admire and want to join Google someday, or you are starting your own company someday. And by the way, I'm putting all this note here, as you can see, to make it a little bit easier to follow along. My key takeaway is that number one, having the moonshot or the 10x improvement is a great goal, and ask what could be true instead of asking what will be true. So look far ahead of time, maybe 5 or 10 years from now. And number two, focus on the end users, not profit or the partner's profits. Money will eventually follow anyway. Number three is the distinction between the knowledge workers versus the smart creative, as the two authors talk a lot in the book, one of the chapters. Number four is optimize for scale, not for revenue. So scale up quickly, and eventually the revenue will follow. Number five is hiring the learning smart creative, not just the field expert in one area, and they will talk about hiring using some kind of smart, some kind of a committee, and then they go through a very elaborate scheme of coming up with in the hiring process. And number six is that we all need a coach. If the world's best athletes uses coaches, we all need a coach, including the CEO, Eric Schmidt, and even Larry Page, current CEO of Google. Number seven is to set an example, review yourself. Even you are the CEO, you want to review, provide a self-criticism and review yourself in other people, and eventually people will see the sincerity and follow along. And number eight is this is kind of one-off thing, and I never seen anybody done it, is to in the staff meeting make it lightly by doing a trip report instead of elaborate pass downs and what have you. So these are very to me is a good idea to practice. So there are a total of 8 takeaways here. There are more as you follow along the chapters, and I'm going to do a quick summary of each chapter. You can follow along in this in this background here. Introduction: the new era of a 3 technology trend. That's era with 3 technology trends that's converging. Everything is online, number one, and the mobile devices are ubiquitous, and the cloud computing putting practically infinite amount of computing power and storage at everyone's disposal. So as a result, the speed of changes is increasing, and that's number one. And the product excellence is paramount. Number three, C, consumers have abundant choices. And D, the cost of products experimentation and failure has dropped sharply. So you can experiment and iterate very fast. And E is a faster product cycles and flexible process. So there's a contrast between the knowledge workers and the smart creative at Google, It's not confined. These people are not confined to a specific task and unlimited in their computing access, and they are not averse to taking risk, and they are not hemmed by the role definition and organization structure. And they don't keep quiet when they disagree or get bored very easily and shift jobs quite a bit. So he or she is a expert in doing, not so much an expert in a certain field. So don't just design concepts. He or she actually builds the prototype. A power user, and she understands her product from the user perspective. So these are the definition of a smart creative that Google want all their employees to be. So if you want to be part of Google or a Googler, this is the kind of criteria you're going to have to meet. Chapter 2 on culture. So believe in your own slogans. The smart creatives put culture in the top of the list in choosing their work. To be effective, they need to care about the place they work. And define the culture that you want at the onset of the company. When you start a company, don't listen to the hippo. Hippo is the highly paid person's opinions. Or hippo is kind of trample everybody. And the rule of 7, minimum of 7 direct report per organization and per manager. So that way is much you limit to reduce the amount of micromanagement. And then P&L business units should be driven by separate external customers and partners. They don't particularly like the business unit because they create silos, and only form a P&L if you have to, as a matter of counting. So do all the reorgs in one day if you have to, and organize the company around the people whose impact is the highest. Interesting. Give people responsibility and freedom to manage their own work. The work versus life balance. Establish a culture of yes and don't be evil is a Google's mantra, and so those are the culture that they believe that Google has. Number 3, chapter 3 is about strategy. Your plan is all wrong. So business plans are often wrong. Invest in the team, not the plan. Have the foundation blueprint. So this is the kind of the framework, rather than create a very long-term plan. Bet on the technical insights, not market research, that helps solve a big problem in a novel way. Optimize for scale, not for revenue. So we talk about that a little bit. And let great products grow the market for everyone. And tail is wagging the dog when market research becomes more important than the technical innovation. And this is one of the reasons why Steve Jobs does not like to do market research. Technology and technical merits is more important. Scaling up platforms, a set of products or services that bring together groups of users. The platform is defined as a set of products or devices that bring together groups of users and providers to form a multi-sided market. So it's a little bit complicated, but it's going to go into more details at the end. The platform is a very critical concept here, and so the platform need to be in the core in the internet age, and at the expense of profit. So build the platforms, not the revenue. That's the key, because the platform kind of feeds on itself. And find ways to specialize in area that has potential to expand, as in Google does in the searches. And default to open, not close standard, and open harness the talents of many. So exceptions including the Google search algorithm, and they don't open up the algorithm because they avoid people gaming the systems. And the advice is don't follow the competition, because competition tend to doing so will lead to mediocrity, because you cannot deliver anything that's truly innovative if you're just focusing on your competitors. And on strategy meetings, start by asking what will be true in 5 years and work backward. We just talked about that a little bit. So the responses are different if you are incumbent versus if you are challengers of the industry. And you will have a different perspective. Chapter 4 is on talent. Hiring is the most important thing you do as a manager. So there's a herd effect. Great employees tend to attract more great employees, and passionate people don't use the word passionate, and so that's kind of something to watch out for if somebody keeps saying they're passionate. And hiring learning animal, not just an expert in the area, but you want to hire people who actually can learn and grow from that. So that's very difficult to find, unfortunately, or very hard to tell anyway. And check the character by doing the LAX test. This is the test. If it is okay for you to be stranded with that person LAX for 6 hours during a flight. How would that person perform, or is that person interesting enough to last that long? So do a 30-minute long interview by committees, and then they have a hiring package that with all the best worst answers, a grade from each interviewers, a school GPA, etc. So everything is all combined to a package. So very organized way of doing a hiring. So I don't know how many company does that, to do this kind of stuff, but that's I think that's Google way. I think they've been practicing that. On retention, trade the M&Ms and keep the raisins. So keep the top performance job interesting, and trade them if you have to, if you found them to be to keep them challenged. You want to trade them so they can grow from that position. Do's is that hire people who are smarter and more knowledgeable than you are, that will add value to the product and culture, and will get things done. And who are enthusiastic, self-motivated, passionate, inspiring, and work well with other people, and will grow with your team and company, well-rounded, unique interests, talents, ethical, communicative, openly, and hire only when you found a great candidate. Don't settle for anything less. Very ideal goal. I don't think there are many people like that. Maybe that they all happen to be in Google. Chapter 5, decisions. The true meaning of consensus. Use the decision when they have made the decision to exit China. They have to decide using the data. Be aware of the bobblehead. So they just kind of yes people. Know when to ring the bell. The bios for action. You need to set a deadline to make a decision. Make fewer decisions. Push down decision to a lower level. And then meet every day if you have to dictate the calendar. As a leader, it's not a good idea to dictate the decision, but you can dictate the calendar, that's cutoff time when you want the decision made. So then at the end, you want to say you're both right. You want to win the heart of the people and not just arguments. And this is the so-called Oprah's rule. And about having a good meeting is that every meeting needs to have an owner. So the decision maker need to be hands-on, and the meeting size need to be about no more than 8 or 10. And when you are attending the meeting, don't use the laptop for other purpose. Decision on spending time is spend 80% of your time on 80% of your revenue. So try to manage your time accordingly. So that's chapter 5. And chapter 6 is about communication. Be a damn good routers. And this is what Jonathan was teased, but being a good router, he doesn't do anything, he just routed to the right person. And a lot of time in the management or product management level, and that's all they do is to manage the information or steering the right question to the right people. So default to open board communication. Default to open whenever possible. Even the board presentation is shared with all employees in the weekly TGIF meetings at Google, and every employee can share their OKR, the objective key result. OKR stands for objective key results, of kind of their goals and their evaluation. Know the details and the truth. It must be safe to tell the truth. In a weekly Dory Q&A session with Larry and Sergey at the TGIF meetings, they openly discuss questions, and they cannot ignore certain questions. It has to be they have to take all the questions. That's called Dory Q&A session. And so start a conversation, meaning that you want to have open office hours, like Marissa Mayer when she was at Google. And repetition does not spoil the prayer. So ask, does it reinforce the core theme that you want everybody to get? Is it effective? Is it interesting? Is it fun, inspirational? Is it authentic? Is going to the right people and using the right media and tell the truth? Those are the communication criteria. And be humble and be bank all the goodwill for a rainy day. It's a bank goodwill for a rainy day. So, and then you can break the staff meeting monotony, but with a humble trip report. That's something I brought up earlier. And review yourself. Make sure you will work for, if you ask yourself, would you work for yourself? That's a good way to evaluate yourself. Initiate criticism of yourself. Give others the freedom to be more honest and more forthcoming. Email, and then talk about some email wisdoms. Number one, respond quickly. Every word matters, and uses prose doesn't. Number three, clean out your inbox constantly, and then handle in a LIFO manner, last in, first out manners. And number five, ask who else will route the email to, and be the good router. And number six is do not be CC except send to a huge distribution. And don't yell in the big meeting, in the email. Don't use capital letter or very strong emotion. And forward to yourself with the keywords for future search, in case you come back to that. So, and have a playbook. Have a playbook, meaning that's the how you want to work with your team. So having a nice one-on-one format is about when in the one-on-one discussion meeting, you want to talk about performance and job requirements, relationship with the peer groups, and management and leaderships, and then innovation. What are the best practices? So these are the four things to talk about in the one-on-one. That's a very nice framework. And in the board meetings, most people don't do it with your board meeting, but in the board meetings, noses in and fingers out. You don't want to interfere with the people who are doing the day-to-day work. You want to nose in, kind of feel things out, and then but you keep your hands out or fingers out. So this in the board meeting, discuss strategies and products, not too much on governance and lawsuits, and deal with partners like diplomats, and deal with press interviews like having the conversations, not just a message. And have a relationship, take the time to know, care about people, and don't forget to make people smile. And when praise is deserved, don't hold back. Very good advice. Chapter 7, innovation. And this is the keep it the last. It's actually a lot of great idea here. 3 criteria to determine if Google will pursue an innovative idea. This is how they flesh out the idea. Number 1, does it address a big challenge or opportunity? Something that will affect hundreds of millions or even billions of people. And number 2, an idea is an idea for a solution that's radically different from anything currently in the market. And number 3, feasible and achievable in a not too distant future. And number 4, technology, how it will evolve. You don't want to use the old technology, you want to use something that will happen in the future. And the quote is that innovative people do not like to be do not need to be told to do that. They just need to be allowed to do the innovation. So, and that means that innovation needs to be evolved organically and focus on the users, not customers. So there's a difference. Google's customer sometimes is the advertisement partner. The money will follow, as in the case of Good Earth. That's one example they give. Good Earth did not have a customer, did not have a profit revenue model. Eventually they figure out how to put a toolbar in there to create a business model for that. And the money will follow. So, and think big, think 10 times. 7, 20, 10 resource allocation, 10% related to core business, 20% to the emerging, and 10% on the new things with the high risk of failure. And ship and iterate just like what they do with the Chrome, and fail well, just like Google Wave that failed miserably. But morph the idea, don't kill them. Right? It's management's job not to mitigate risk but prevent failures, or prevent failure, but to create an environment that's resilient enough to take on those risks and tolerate the inevitable missteps. So a good failure should be a fast one, kill it, and it's not about the money ultimately. A lot of time it's not about the money, but most of the time it is, unfortunately. Conclusion. In the book, imagine the unimaginable. So in a world of platforms, it defined a platform is a back and forth relationship with consumers and suppliers, a lot of give and take instead of a corporation, more a one-way street like a GM from production of a motor or car to the consumers. So at the corporate level, most innovative new things look like very small opportunities. So people are not rewarded for taking risks and they're up for safety. So you need to ask the hardest questions, understanding what you do about the future. What do you see for the business that others may not or may see but chose to ignore. Okay, so for example, Google Plus, there one person, Victor, whatever his name is, he saw that Facebook was going to be in direct path with Google, and then he started the Google Plus to kind of as a comeback. But they argue that it's not related to a social networking. But ask not what would be true, but ask what could be true. What are the possibilities? So what things that are unimaginable, but when abiding by conventional wisdom is in fact imaginable. So sometimes the imaginable, the unimaginable is imaginable. A lot of time we look back and we can never imagine a cell phone could be this small, and everybody has phone, their computer device right next to themselves, and they can carry anywhere. That's just unimaginable. Even 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, that was unimaginable. So there goes. So this is the end of my review of this book. That's how Google works, and I hope you enjoy it. And I really like this book. If you plan to work for Google, admire the companies, and you want to learn from how they are successful, and this is the book for you. So I definitely recommend it. And with that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye now.